What's going on, everybody, and thank you for joining me on The Art and the Artist. I am your host, LA Phil. On this episode, I got to speak to Faraz, an artist from the DMV area who studied visual arts in New York and is now based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Going from the East Coast of the United States to Utah in terms of settings is a complete 180. But Faraz is no stranger to change. Originally studying public health, he switched to visual arts to change the world with his beautifully carved and wood-burned pieces. In the description for his piece called Full Embrace, Faraz writes, "There will be a time you must step out into the world. Opportunities arrive and you have let them pass far too long. Use the gold within yourself to show everyone what you can really do. Open to the world to share your blessings." And I couldn't agree more. And with that, I present to you Faraz.
Awesome. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for agreeing to do the show with me, man. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of your art, man.
Thank you. I've always wanted to be interviewed. I'm like nervous and just excited. And thank you. Like, you've been following me for a while. I've been seeing you just like liking my stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When I tell people,
oh, no problem. When I tell people I'm a fan, I'm legitimately a fan. You know, I don't just go through and find artists to reach out to. Like, it's someone I follow. It's someone whose work that I know. So I am very grateful that you are here with me today. So Raz, can I call you Raz? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you can call me Raz.
Raz.
My name is Faraz. I go by he, him pronouns. Faraz. Whatever works best.
All right, perfect. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I get it right. You know what I mean? I don't want to call you out of your name. All right, so you're in Utah currently. Yeah. So were you born and raised in Utah? How did you get to Utah? That's a random place to be an artist.
Yeah, very much so. I was born in Chicago, moved to Maryland, the DMV area. Okay. When I was 3, and I basically just grew up there. And yeah, for undergrad, I went to University of Rochester in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Right now I'm in a grad program to study video game design, surprisingly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to hopefully do like animation kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Utah, I just needed like a clean slate. I needed to kind of just take a break from everything and see what's on the other side of the coast. So I just kind of ended up here. The program's been really informative and I've learned a lot from it.
Okay.
And we'll see, maybe that'll influence the art one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big change from, New York to Utah. I must admit, was there any sort of adjustment that you had to make coming from a huge city to Utah?
Yeah, there's adjustments every day, to say the least. I'm in Salt Lake City right now. So there's a lot of similarities between there, but Rochester is like the university. It wasn't in the city, and the city's like a very quiet city. But yeah, so it wasn't too, I think it was just the people adjustment, and like the cultures within Rochester are very different than the cultures in Salt Lake City. Yeah,
I'd imagine so. All right, so I was reading that you were studying public health before you decided to become an artist. Now, what made you want to make that shift, and was it an easy shift for you? I saw that you had been sculpting, it said, since you were 7 years old. So what made you want to switch from public health to art?
So when I was deciding to go into college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Like, I was always told to go into medical stuff since I had like really good, of course, medical stuff.
Yeah.
But since I had like a really good sculpture background, everyone was like, you should be a surgeon. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. So I decided against that, and but I still wanted to be in like the health fields and all. So I went to the public health fields because I thought like I could do more in public health. I really like how it's more like preventative than reactive.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where like I would much rather have been like a policy writer. Specifically, what I wanted to focus on was like addiction and kind of drug epidemics, opioid epidemics.
Yeah.
Just because the idea that like a medicine can turn into an addictive substance and you just kind of wrap your whole life around it. That's like a very interesting concept to me. So yeah, I wanted to go down that route. And in 2019, I did a study abroad I went to Kampala, Uganda, which was a great experience. But that's where I realized like I don't want to do public health. At the end of the day, also because I was connecting with other artists in the area, and I was like, this sounds, I want to do this. I want to do this. So after that, I came back home, had like a rough few months of just redeciding life course, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna stick with. I was double majoring public health and studio art degree, so I was sticking with the studio art. And then I picked up a digital media studies is what they called it, to kind of get into like the realm of digital media and video game arts. I succeeded over there in undergrad, and now I'm in Utah studying video game arts.
That is great. Was there any pushback from your family? I mean, I would imagine that, people have their hopes on you becoming a surgeon in the beginning, but when you decided, okay, this is what I want to do, was there any pushback from family members or friends that you had?
Yeah, so most of the pushback came from family, which was expected, just because family does have a lot of expectations for me. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, like, I'm gonna do me. Like they have like a version of me in their heads, which they want me to be. And I'm like, it's my life. I'll do what I have. I'll do what I have to do. So getting them to understand that I wanted to do video game arts, it was like a tough kind of thing, because they were like, why are we spending money for like an undergrad when you can go to like a 1-year program and get like a certificate? So there was that. And then when I moved, like that was a whole thing where I had to just have my parents come up, and we met with like a bunch of teachers, like people in the public health field, or people in the public health like departments, the video game departments, the art departments, to just be like, okay, like the video game field right now is booming. And the art field right now is also like exploding, as there's just such more of a like want for new visions, new arts, new styles, and I'm here for it. So absolutely. I like had to just talk with them heavily and deeply about like what I wanted to do, like what they want. We were able to get a peaceful reconciliation.
Good. That's good.
So yeah, it was a little tough at first, but they warmed up to it. And right now I'm still stuck between video game arts and traditional art, but I'm really pushing for the traditional art. Going to the fine art route, hoping for the best in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as I would say an amateur art connoisseur myself, I like to go to a lot of art show openings. I mean, and I'm in Los Angeles, so there's a ton of art galleries, little ones, big museums. And what I see from you, I mean, I would say it's not long before, it gets the attention that I think it deserves. So yeah. I mean, coming from me, I mean, it may not much, but I absolutely.
It takes one person. It takes one person.
That is true. That is absolutely true. All right. So you said, not you said, I read that you've been sculpting from a very young age. Now, were there artists in your family? Like, how did that come about? Because other than maybe having someone push you to do it, it's just something that you always were into and wanted to do?
I was always into art, like when I was a kid, and I had really good hand-eye stuff. It started off with Legos, as many sculptors have before me. Legos, Bionicles, like those kind of stuff. And my parents were like, he really likes this stuff. So my mom, she took me to like a parent child's like art class
Okay.
for sculpting, and I was like, this
Yeah.
is kind of really fun. It's
Yeah.
kind of really fun.
Awesome.
So I was doing that. And then I went to like just summer camps. I was talking to my art professors about like how sculpture works. I was doing that through high school, specifically in like ceramics and like clay stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of where it started. Like I've always been doing art, always drawing. I could
Yeah.
never get into painting, but
Okay.
always drawing. And just like reading. I loved comics and anime and mangas. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just reading a bunch of those, and I'm like, this is fine art. This is
Yeah.
fine art.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm
yeah.
one that thinks that, I mean, some people have an idea in their head what fine art should be, but there are so many examples of different styles, you know, from different countries and different things that it's very hard to just say one thing is art when you have artists that create in all sorts of different styles. Like for you example, one question I wanted to ask you is, what made you decide on using wood as a medium as opposed to any other sort of art? Because I mean, it looks great, but I feel like, was it something that immediately grabbed your attention, or was a lot of searching before you got to that?
It was definitely a lot of searching originally. So I started wood burning, which is where I even found out I could do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In 2017. I was just at like a craft store, like a Michael's.
Yeah.
And I was walking around and I saw like a wood burning kit, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I like started doing it. I was doing like album covers of stuff, and like I really like campfires. Like as a kid, I've always
Yeah.
loved them, like super warm, just like
Yeah.
fun feelings around them. And every time I was like doing a wood burning, like my whole room smelled like a campfire. I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
this
and that's literally just how I've like stuck with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of a blessing because I always wanted to like do sculpting outside of college, but because sculpting requires so much space,
Yeah.
and a lot of materials, like there's only so much I could have done. But with this, I was like, well, I texted my friend. I was like, how do I get better at wood burning? And just like, how do I push my craft? He was like, you don't treat it like wood, you treat it just like a flat base.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, so I need to like treat it like wood. So I started carving it, which is where I started to see like, this is just sculpting again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where like kind of how I found the medium of just messing around and being like, this is kind of nice. This is kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So how long before, or how long after I should say, that you started it and then you got to a point where you realized, okay, like this is good. I can do this. Like this is what I meant to do.
Yeah. So it was this November, I think.
Wow.
This November. Yeah. I made a piece called, I was like, when I was just starting, so I started carving the wood last August. So it's like the carving part is new, but I do have a heavy sculpture background. So I was just messing around, seeing like, okay, what can I do with this? Is this like a tangible medium? Can I make this work? And it was around then when I was like, started to dawn on me, like, okay, I can't be stuck between video game arts and traditional arts. I need to figure out what I like.
Yeah.
And that's when I like did a heavy like breathing session. I was making art of both kinds, and I was like, I'm gonna stick with traditional art. Just because there's, to me, like I can express myself a lot more. It's a lot more personal, as opposed to like being in a part of like a video game. So yeah, that was I was finishing, I think I was doing a lot of anatomy studies at the time to just kind of figure it out. And when I like finished making just a general anatomy, I was like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Just kept doing this.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, you know what? As I was going through your art, I noticed that, and it makes sense after you're doing the anatomy study, because I noticed that a lot of the pieces are focused on the human figure. So that came out of studying anatomy.
Yeah. So it definitely happened. I'm I'm like freaking out because like I never
I know
thought
your
people would
stuff.
actually like keep going through my work. This is
Oh,
awesome.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that just studying the human form right now is really like interesting to me, just seeing like all the curves, folds, like
Yeah.
how structures work, how like people are built. And that's kind of like, yeah, to me, like that's how I express myself through
Yeah.
right now, at least through my body,
Mhm.
and through other, like through depicting bodies in different forms. Because right now in my art, for the past, like, since I started carving and just putting my art out there, I've been like trying to re-examine like what just happened in the past 3 years. Because
Yeah.
since I like decided that I wanted to go down a digital art or like a video game art and traditional art route, things
Mhm.
have just been snowballing. That was like late 2019. And 2020 happened, and then 2021 happened.
Yeah.
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 And I was still in college at the time. Thankfully, that was a
Okay.
huge privilege I could have. Um, but a lot of things was happening all at the same time, and I was like,
Yeah.
I need
Yeah. Yeah.
to.
Uh-huh.
Tracing back, like, how was I using my body in all of these like places? How was I like expressing myself?
Mhm.
And that was through just like the fact that I had one body to do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just expressing all of my work through these different like figures, poses, close-ups,
Yeah.
and just like memories of where I had my body.
Okay.
Um, to just kind of like feel out what happens in
Yeah.
those crazy 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so you said you were in college when, I mean, the pandemic broke loose, and now did that affect and any did it have any effect anyway on the way you created art? Or because I know, well, maybe not with all artists, but going out and experiencing things and just being out in the world can be inspiring for you. Well, did you have any trouble creating during these times?
No, actually, I think that was a really good thing for me to start doing. I was
Mhm.
just staying within my own, not staying inside, because I was doing like, even to this day, I'm doing daily walks, going
Mhm.
outside for just like the nature aspect and
Yeah.
just like reflect and stuff. Every morning back in senior year when COVID was doing its numbers during like college. I always took a walk out. I had a skateboard. I still skate. I was skating
Yeah.
and went past a river that just cut through the campus. And I just like
Yeah.
chilled out there for a bit to just like think about like, okay, what am I doing today? What was yesterday? What's happening tomorrow? And just get those 3 day spans like
Yeah.
planned and sorted.
Okay. Oh, that's
Um,
great.
and with that, I was able to push a lot of like my creativity. I was doing a lot more like reading on a lot of like social education and just how society works, sociology, psychology,
Mhm.
to just figure out like what's going on in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So just being able to have that little personal time to myself was great. So I could actually do some reflecting and figure out how I wanted to
Mhm.
express an idea through my art and like express a message through my art. So I actually think that that was a really good
Yeah.
way for me to just like grow, to just like
Yeah.
forcefully sit back. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Because I mean, we had nothing but time in those days, so that's great. You use your time wisely. That's awesome. Now, would you say that the traditional art that you do is maybe easier, maybe because you've been doing it for longer than like video game digital art? Is it more, wouldn't say difficult, but was there a learning curve when you started to learn visual art and making art for video games?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's the hardest thing for me when it comes to video game art is just comprehending where I should click.
Okay.
There's a lot of menus and UIs, which I'm still trying to figure out. Because when I'm doing, I like keep looking up here because this is where I keep all of my work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I'm doing a physical piece, if I want to draw something, I just pick up a pencil and draw it. But in like if I'm doing like I do 3D modeling preferably. So if
Okay.
I'm 3D modeling, I need to like enter the UVs of everything, move everything to Photoshop, and it just gets really confusing for me. So I've just had a lot more straightforward fun with my woodworks as opposed to like just kind of it's a lot more backtracking in digital art, which you can't do in this medium because like if you carve something out, like it's gone.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Now, was there anyone who inspired you to become an artist, or any artist that you had looked to for a very long time for inspiration, or was it something just from within that you knew that you could always do?
So definitely. So it's not something I always thought I could do. I'll say that some artist that inspired me, his name's Tyler Thrasher. I don't know if you heard of him. He's on Instagram. And what he does is like mind-boggling. He has these like insect carcasses and like weird like animal body parts, which he crystallizes, and just it comes out as like this beautiful like biological like mass of just like madness. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. If he's ever watching this, like, I hope so. Because the way that he does his work, it's like he brings his whole life, because he was, I believe, a chemist at the same time as or before he was doing art, or at the same time he was doing art. And he brought his whole life, like wrapped it up and put it into his art, which is like exactly what I want to be doing with my art. And the way like he does it is beautiful, to bring like such strange parts of life like chemistry into art, which makes sense like when you think of it, but like you never put it together.
Gotta check this guy out.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. He's like super into biology too. Like recently he's just been making hybrid plants, and I'm like,
really?
this is
And an artist. That's
I don't know what's happening. So I love him, and he's like a great inspiration of just how to make art, not as much my art itself. But some other people that I look up to is Micheline Thomas. She's a great mixed media artist, which like her use of materials are something I'm trying to get up to one day. Daniel Arsham also. Love that dude's art. Wow. And recently I've been looking more into architects. So what I've been looking into is Louis Sullivan. And he makes a lot of like ornamental stuff, and I kind of want to get into architecture ornamental isms.
I know what you mean.
So hopefully I can get into that. But those three and Tyler Thrasher are favorite artists out there right now.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. All right. You know what I like that you do that, I mean, not every artist does it, but the explanations that you give about a piece of art that you've made on your Instagram, it's absolutely great, because it leaves, I think it's awesome. And there are a few that because you have a way with words, I will say, the way that the summers you put with your pieces are excellent. And there's a piece here on your IG called, let's see, What I Had. And this is one of my favorite ones. And you say here, we try to replicate what we did or how we did it in hopes to bring that power back. Have you ever had any problems with, let's say you make a piece, right? And you think it's wonderful. Is there ever a problem thinking, okay, I have to make something that is like this because I think it's so great? Or do you just kind of move past that and say, okay, that's that piece. Now I'm on to create something else, totally different.
Yeah. So right now, like what you just mentioned is something I'm like really facing right now, because I'm like, okay, I need to like focus down more on like a style of doing stuff, as long as like, because right now I have my medium. I have my medium of wood burning, carving, and then several other parts of mixed media. But now I want to like find my style in it. But what I keep telling myself is like, it's been 7 months. That's not a long time.
Yeah.
That's really not, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
It is not a long time. And this is like a time to experiment, right? Like I don't take like much inspiration from the city, like the place I'm in. I'm still connected with a lot of my friends, but not as much physically, just because all of them are on the East Coast. And I'm out in Utah. Yeah. They're everywhere, but no one's in Utah. So like, I just kind of have this place where like, okay, I can pull inspiration from anything and just worry about it for just that one piece. So with that, I'm like, okay, I can just experiment a little bit with this, a little bit with that. Like all of my pieces, like there is usually one specific thing I want to focus on. For the piece you mentioned, What I Had, I wanted to do like male torsos, just figures. So I do hope to get a style within my medium eventually, but right now, like we're just seeing what we're working with, figuring out the ins and out.
Okay, no, that's awesome. All right, so another piece I wanted to talk about. Let's see here. It's called Cloud Rush. It says here, when you're reaching your goals, pressure surrounds you and obstacles form in your way. These pressures from all around you. These pressures form around you, but only because you rise to their challenge. Now, have there been any pressures that you have faced? And you know what? I like the way you said that too, because when you're striving for something and maybe you have a goal set in mind and you have all of these things that get in the way, whether it be, creativity issues, or just people around you or where you are, but it's because of these pressures that make you go even higher. I mean, if you can handle the pressure, it makes you go even further than maybe you could have imagined. Were there any pressures that you had, maybe internally, maybe not external, maybe both internally or externally, that you had to get through to get you where you are today?
Yes. So a lot of internal pressure of just like, can I do this every day? Like, can I, because I am in like a little bit of an energy slump right now, for the past few months. But like when I was at my peak, I was waking up 9 a.m., working for an hour, breakfast, a little bit of anime, working for another like 2 hours, then lunch, working. Like by working, I mean working on art projects. Then like did my daily walk, went to the gym, dinner, and then just art until like 2 a.m. And I was like, can I do that every day? Now I'm at the point where I'm like, yes, I very much can do that every day. So there was that pressure of just figuring out like, what am I going to do after Utah? It's not going to come back to Utah.
No
um
offense, Utah.
and no offense to Utah, it is a beautiful place, it's great.
Yeah.
It's just like finding my own place here has been different.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, so there's a lot of like pressure of just figuring out what I want to do, figuring out what I want to say. Because I do want to have like a message with my art. I do hope to change the world one day.
Oh yeah.
And right now I'm thinking like I just really don't like how people are just consuming so much media and so much art. One thing that I really like about this medium is it's like traditional, but it just hasn't been used like this before, to my
Yeah.
knowledge. To
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
knowledge. And I think that there's so many mediums which can still be used in so many different ways, but it's first, all of them are boxed into like the traditional term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and because of that, no one wants to like experiment outside of that.
Hmm.
In my opinion,
No,
for
yeah. No,
any
I
artist.
think you're right. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that like technology is moving, where technology really is the pushing factor for art, which has been beautiful, where we've seen like so much digital stuff of so many different mediums. And it's like people are using 7 softwares for one piece, which is like the new form of mixed media, which is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm worried about is that people will just hop onto the next medium without fully realizing what could have been, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't want to live in a world where everything is just I say a lot like when I'm talking to other artists, like, so what's next? But I think that just to like the average viewer, everyone's wondering what's next without fully understanding what just happened or fully realizing what just happened, fully feeling it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just figuring out that message was like
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Like I know what I want to do, I know what I want to change. Like people eating without tasting,
Yeah.
that's poor taste.
Yes,
That's
that
poor
is a great
taste.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Um,
And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, yeah, that was all I had to say on that.
Yeah.
Poor thing, yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, because I grew up in an arts district that was like an actual arts district, right? Hipsters took it over now. It's all of the artists got pushed out unless you're making like some real money. But so the arts district downtown, it just so many artists that came. It was a place where I don't know if you know where like Skid Row is, Los Angeles. I've ever heard of Skid Row. It's
Yeah,
not a very good place. Lots of homeless,
yeah,
drugs and stuff like that. But where I lived, there were a bunch of abandoned factories and stuff. And these artists came from all over Southern California because it was so cheap to live. And you can get a lot of square footage, you get your money's worth.
yeah,
And at a time like that where artists, and there were just so many styles, so many mediums used there. And these people had the time to, okay, figure out what I want to do, as opposed to what you said, like things come and go so quickly and people miss the moment before they're on to the next big thing. And you're absolutely right. What you said, you have to, in my opinion, at least if you're working on a medium that you like, live in it for a while before you see something that, okay, that catches your eye and you just forget about everything that you've been doing for the past year. It's a little heartbreaking to see.
it is. Like I see a lot of artists like feel like we have to fit in with different trends if you're like
Yeah.
depending on the space you're in, which is fine as long as you know like that if you're translating skills, right? If you're just
Mhm.
starting from new, then like that's not positive. By translating, I mean like you take what you learned from one medium and moved
Yes.
it onto the other. Because like I had a sculpture background in
Mhm.
ceramics. That's been great with my wood carving. Like all the years of drawing I've done is necessary for the wood burnings I make now. Um, and while I definitely think that you should stick around for your medium for a while to just understand it fully, like I don't want to hate on anyone who's switching it up. Because frankly, like that's how you learn what art you need to make. but I do think like it's okay to take your time with something.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Uh-huh.
that's my and what I want from people who look at my art to just like realize like, okay, it's fine to just slow down,
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Absolutely. Very well put. All right. Okay. So I noticed you've got one posting on Foundation. Have you thought about, and especially now since you're, doing the 3D, not 3D, digital art for video games, have you thought about maybe making more NFTs, or are you mainly focused on just the traditional, hands-on kind of art?
Yeah. So I think one thing I'm gonna do is, so in full honesty, the
Mhm.
pieces I make online and post, the edges are a little photoshopped just to make
Okay.
it more fitted into
Okay.
the
Yeah.
piece. To me, that's enough digital work to call it a digital piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is mixed media.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just gonna, I do want to post a few more pieces on Foundation,
Mhm.
specifically the ones where I get more experimental, because
Yeah.
an issue I have right now is shipping pieces. There's a lot of like small details, which I'm worried of just
Yeah.
having them like shatter in a million pieces. I've
Oh,
heard some
sure.
horror stories recently from UPS and artists, or just like shipping and artists.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna have like my traditional mediums as NFTs.
Yeah.
Um, and hopefully down the line I can like mix digital stuff, because I do have a lot of ideas. I do have a lot of
Mhm.
testing. Um, yeah, like as it is though, like for the next 6 months, it's gonna be this traditional medium uploaded as an NFT.
Mhm.
If the art, or if the collector so wants it, I will happily send them
Yeah.
the piece,
Yeah.
unless otherwise stated. Yeah, let me throw that
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
No, awesome. It's
but
funny, I met this guy who works for this art shipping company that strictly just moves art, from artist to collector. And the amount that these guys charge to move art, I think I am in the wrong business. I'm talking about just thousands and thousands of dollars. Oh, it's insane. It's absolutely crazy, and it's because usually they're, bigger pieces, or,
mhm.
a lot of the older pieces. But when he told me how much it costs just to move art, it blew my mind, So, I mean, someone's got to come up with a better way to ship art, because, yeah, like you said, you send something through UPS, it could be ruined by the time it gets to the collector. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like hopefully I can set up a physical. What I wanted to do in this month was set up like a physical store, not necessarily list any, not list, but like not necessarily like have any sales, but at least set up like a framework for it,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
like prepare some of my old pieces to like hang on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully I can get that going. I want to get into the NFT space more. Like back to Cloud Crush, one thing that kind of inspired that piece was I've developed like a lot more social anxiety just
Mhm.
from being in a lot of the times just
Yeah.
working on art. Um, Meanwhile, in undergrad, which that was like a very powerful moment in my life,
Mhm.
that like 3 year span from 2019 to now.
Mhm.
Um, I was very social. Like I knew everyone. I wasn't as much hanging out, but I was able to hang out with people,
Yeah.
um, talking to everyone. And this was like a complete 180, where now I need to meet like artists online
Yeah.
and just trying to figure out like Twitter spaces. That's something I'm really trying to get into.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like the weird part is I'm just like staring at a wall and having a conversation, like literally staring at the wall in front of me and having a
Yeah.
conversation with like 40 people or even 5 people,
Uh-huh.
and just like stuttering over my words because I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's been like bit of a
Uh-huh.
struggle with it. But
Uh-huh.
hopefully I can set up an online store and I will have shipping
Yeah.
figured out
Yeah.
eventually.
Good. Yeah. It'll work out. It'll work out. I have no doubt about that. Is there an art scene where you live in Utah? Do you know any of the local artists out there, or is it? kind of singular?
So I've been to a few of the galleries and there was an art walk actually this weekend, which I went to, which was really nice. I went to only a few of the stations, but I think a lot of the pieces I've seen is very like realism
Okay.
or like just stuff that I'm not necessarily a fan of, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh yeah.
A lot of like there's pop art and there's hyper like nature
Yeah.
realism, landscapes and stuff. This is a great place for photographers. I
Oh
do
yeah.
know that. Um, the scenery here is just stunning for no reason. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of photographers move through here to just enjoy the nature. This is a Salt Lake City surrounded by mountains,
Okay. Yeah.
um, on all sides, and there's a huge hiking scene,
Yeah.
very nature oriented. So there's a lot of photographers who are in the area.
Okay.
I do want to connect more with artists though. I've been really bad with
Yeah. Yeah.
connecting with them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but I would imagine it's a little tougher when, especially like that super realism, like you said, landscapes and stuff. It's like that's just not what I do. It's maybe trying to connect with someone that is, I wouldn't say on your level, but more of the same sort of, not same style, but
Like genre, quote
yeah,
unquote.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I've got a bit of a skewed um vision because out here there's just everything. And like, yeah, and we have the MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art downtown here in Los Angeles, and it's that one. There's this museum called the Broad. If you don't know what it is, you might have seen the outside of it because just the building looks like an art piece, and I have been spoiled with just different kinds of art here in Los Angeles, and artists too. There's artists of all kinds down here. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a
excited
little,
about it.
yeah.
About how you went to an art gallery recently. How was
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh, it was great. See, what I love to do is go to these the show openings, right? So when an artist has a show, I like to go on the first day, uh, talk to the artist, get to see the art, meet the gallery owners and stuff like that. It's it's a little different than because like I found you online, right? Which was great. It's a great way to find new artists, but to see them physically and just to see like the happiness in their faces just from people looking at their art. Yeah. So like the last show I went to, the artist, I don't know how many pieces he had, maybe somewhere near 20, and he sold out his whole show, like opening night was done, and it's so awesome to see that, like one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show is, okay, besides the fact that I saw the arts district where I live just go to shit, right? Like now there's breweries and and boutiques and stuff where used to be an artist loft. That was one reason, but another reason is it's very much a commitment to be an artist. It's a lot of time by yourself. It's a lot of time creative. Maybe you get blocked, maybe all sorts of issues. And I like to see artists win. Like my dad was an artist and I saw what he had to go through. It's especially, let's say when I'm like 12, 13, this was like the 90s, mid 90s. And it was so much harder for artists back then just to get people to look at their stuff. Like there's this big art show every year at the convention center in Los Angeles. And there's hundreds of artists that come, right? And I remember as a kid helping my dad, he had these heavy mixed medium pieces, lots of marble and brass and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, okay, this, maybe this is going to be it. Someone will see it, but it's tough when you're competing with hundreds of different artists. And now it's easier to see the art, but people really don't care. Well, this is my opinion, who the artist is, right? It's okay, that looks nice, on to the next one. And so what I wanted to do with the show was give a chance for the fans to see, okay, this is what this person is about. This is, they have struggles just like you. You might like the art, but get to know the person as well. It's
Thank you.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
for doing this. This is
Yeah.
great. I like listened to a few of the other of your previous interviews, and
Yeah.
you're good at this.
Oh,
You're doing your job. You're doing
thank
your
you.
job.
Thank you. I've I love artists, right? I met so many cool people just going to these art shows and, just connecting with different people. It's awesome, man. And I feel like art, like I'd say, like you can be a musician or an athlete and you get so much praise, right? But you have these artists making these beautiful things. And okay, and this is what I always say, okay, you never know what someone is thinking, right? Or what is in their mind. They can portray themselves a certain way, but you never really know. But when an artist makes a piece, that's exactly what they were thinking. That was exactly what was it. That was their vision. You know what I mean? And they are opening up their mind to all of us. So, I just like to spread the art around. You know what I mean? It's, and it's fulfilling for me too, because I mean, like my show, it's fairly new still, and hopefully it grows the way that I envision it doing. But I just want I want artists to win, man. Like that's it. I want people to see the work. Like that's it in a nutshell.
I want us to win.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I've got another one of your pieces I want to talk about. Let's see. I don't want to take up all your time. I could talk about every one of your pieces, honestly, but I've got heat map. That's the one. Okay. And that kind of goes with what I was talking about. Okay, so you write here in the description, do our actions hide who we are? Do we want to show the world a different past and present, a different past and present than the one we have lived? Now, that's a very powerful thing to say, because I think that is very prevalent today, because when you go online, you see what people want you to see. They present themselves in a way that might not be who they are. And I like the way that you made this piece, because okay, so in my head I see, okay, you have the chains going around, but underneath that it's the scars of the past, and we try to hide that with what we want people to see. Have you had any issues with presenting your present as an accumulation of your past, or are there things that you don't want to let people in per se, just because you want to keep those things a little quiet?
Damn. So there definitely is, like, there's some things, and this is something that I learned a lot in undergrad. Again, was I had a lot of leadership positions. I was doing a lot of like social education stuff and like DEI stuff, which I'm still doing in this graduate program. But when you're in like a leadership position, you want to be as transparent as you can, but you don't, like, what I wanted was I wanted to be like someone people can talk to, but in like a way where everything is open, and you don't need to worry about like stumbling over your words. One thing that I've seen a lot when I was in that leadership position was the more about myself I talked about, like some issues that I've had, the more people stumbled over their words when saying their own stuff, because they don't want to say like, oh, like my problem is, like, people compared problems a lot in my undergrad. And like I've been through my fair share of stuff. And because of that, like, people are just afraid to talk about what they're going through, because they're like, oh, well, this is my problem is like nothing compared to what you went through. And I'm like, no, like this, like what we've been through is very, how we feel about it is subjective. I think it's subjective to us. Of course, we're always going to feel like our own problems are like very important, because they're what we deal with every day. So I felt like there were parts of myself that I had to hide, not because I wanted to. Like, I would love for people to know, like, I mean, I don't know if I'd love for people to know everything that I've been through, but like, I'd love to be able to talk about that stuff. But when you're in this like leadership position, you want people to be fully comfortable talking. So there's like a weird level of transparency you have to have, or like, you're educated on something, but you can't say that you've been through that something. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So that's really where that came from. And this was also just like something I've experienced living in Utah. There's a lot of, in Salt Lake City specifically, there's a large Mormon population here and a large ex-Mormon population here.
Oh, okay.
There's also a very bad unsheltered persons, like a homeless issue
Oh,
in
really?
this city. Yeah, it's really bad. And the thing is, a lot of the people who like just stepping out of the church to go on with their day, they say hello to me, and I'm just because I'm doing like daily walks and stuff to just get some
Mhm.
oxygen, to just breathe a bit.
Yeah.
Say hello to me. They're all really nice people, but at the same time, there's like someone about to pass out on the ground right next to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's rough. It's really
Yeah.
sad. Like I don't have like the money to do anything about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I try to. I like
Yeah.
have some pocket change. Um, so when I see that, I'm like, these people are presenting themselves as like so nice until they have to do something about it. And also within the like ex-Mormon scene, a lot of people don't like talking about like
Oh, well.
what happens in the church. Some people are very open with it, other
Mhm.
people not so much. So you just see who people are at that present and then whatever past they want to show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a big
that's
problem. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, because I've seen it a million. When I was a kid, my mom she would stand on this corner where, there would be a lot of like homeless traffic. And my mom was a saint, that woman. Her and my aunt would package together like food, like toiletries and stuff like that to pass out. And I remember one day the LAPD shut it down. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what their reason was, but they told my mom that you can't do this anymore. You can, not that you couldn't do it here on this block, you can't do it at all.
you can't do it at
Which,
all.
yeah, which blew my mind because there's just one woman trying to do something, and there was a huge homeless population down there. And it's like, what do you want? People that want to do something, what do you want them to do? Just to pity them. I mean, they need more than that. It's sad to see, because there is a section of the population that people just want to ignore and turn a blind eye to, just pretend they are not there. And when people, I don't want to get into politics, but people like to say, oh, well, this place has got such a bad homeless population. And what are they doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Like, are you going to talk or are you going to do something? You're going to talk about how, and I'm a staunch defender of California, Los Angeles in particular. When people like to say, oh, well, Los Angeles has gone to shit. No, it hasn't gone to shit. A lot of this has been like this since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And whatever side of the aisle you're on, either right or the left, none of you are doing anything, right? None of you are doing shit. All right. So stop talking and do something. I don't know. I'm very passionate about that sort of thing because all right. So when I was a kid, like we didn't have a lot of money, right? Which was a reason we were living in the arts district. And I got to, like, there are not a lot of kids there. It's just a bunch of artists. So I would go walk around and I actually got to know like a few homeless people that were there and the reasons that they were there. And a lot of them were war veterans, a lot of them, drug addiction that, wasn't ever taken care of. And if we don't, find a solution to the initial problem, it's going to keep happening and people are going to keep talking and talking without ever doing anything. It blows my mind. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the truth. That's the truth. It's like there's only so much, like you can't talk forever,
Yeah.
and that's exactly all I'm hearing. I do my research too on like what's happening in the city.
Mhm.
Really, it's not much. There's a lot of attempts at like building homeless centers
Mhm.
and just for people to go to, but the current rules around those centers are very like destructive. Like it's split up by gender, so families are split apart.
Yeah.
You can't bring any metals into these shelters, which makes sense, but
Mhm.
you also need a little bit of metal of any kind
Yeah.
if you're living on the streets here.
Yeah.
And there's just like so much stuff that it's like it looks like you're trying to help, but what you're doing at the end of the day is more harm than good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I met a few homeless people that would commit crimes and nonviolent crimes on purpose to go to jail so they can have a place to sleep and something to eat. You know what I mean? It's insane. Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough.
All
So
right.
that's
Well,
where
this
I got
got
my
kind of deep.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got very deep. I'm happy we could talk about it though. It's not
Yeah.
something like is talked a lot here at least. So thank you for
Yeah.
your time.
Oh
Thanks for
yeah.
telling me about like
No,
how
yeah, no,
your
thank you.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I got to see a lot of the spectrum because I said I grew up in the city, not a lot of money, and my dad, you know, a good decision and a bad decision, I would say. But I went to school outside of the city I lived in, right? So I'm going to school with kids who have that come from a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
And it's me there who are, six of us in a 2-bedroom apartment taking the bus back to LA, you know what I mean? And it's such and the people there, I mean, kids, okay, you get a pass, but it's once you pass a certain street, let's just forget about all of these people, that's not our world. They're not our problem, and I got to see both sides of it. And I understand that some people need help, and not giving them help and complaining about them, and it's not going to help anything. So yeah, I like to be compassionate because I understand what it's like not to have a lot of things, which I think benefits me now because I don't need much now. You know what I mean? Like so yeah. All right. Back. There's another piece of yours I wanted to talk about before we get out of here. Hold on. Oh, there's like a Windows series that you did, which is
That's the older one.
Yeah. See, I like I said, I checked out everything. Now, where's the one in particular I'm looking for? There's one, and it's the figure stepping out of the window. I know that. What is the name of it?
Yeah, that was Windows 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So we say, take a step from our position. We encounter questions. What will it be? So, well, I guess maybe you've experienced some of this, stepping out of your comfort zone, whether it be, where you live to a place like Utah. I assume you didn't know anyone when you moved there, right? Now,
I do have a roommate who's been really helpful with just showing me how Utah works, but it's solo. It's just me here.
So taking that journey then from Chicago to New York and then to Utah, do you
Chicago,
feel like,
Maryland?
Oh, Maryland. Yeah. You said we're in the DMV area. Did you? What was I trying to say? Did it? Because when I look at this piece, I feel like stepping out of your comfort zone into a new world, and not knowing what you're going to get, but you're going to take that leap anyways, right? Was that something that you had a problem with? Maybe not a problem, but just adjusting to this new world. That because I'm not sure the demographics there, but I'm not sure if I mean anyone that looks like you in Utah, was that ever a problem?
Well, I'm honestly still trying to find my people. Here there aren't many people who come from like a Middle Eastern descent here. So finding like that community and then finding like an art community has also been difficult. But I do like the kind of step into a new world vibe when it comes to just life. Just because like it's literally a world of possibilities. You can see what's next. Like I don't like sitting too long in a place, just like not like literally, but like mentally. And sometimes I just need that physical boundary to just push that mental space. So yeah, this story really, or like this series was about moving to Utah, where I was really comfortable at home. Like everything was going as expected. And I was like, okay, what's something I wouldn't normally do? Moving to Utah is kind of up there.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's
yeah, I came here too for like it was mostly for the program, for the grad school, but I was also like, this is gonna be different. Yeah. So just like I really try to embrace these new like ways of life. A book that changed my life really, which is kind of a book I live by, is Siddhartha by Hermann
Okay.
Hesse,
Okay.
where the character experiences like the maximum possible feeling of each like state of being this person is.
Yeah.
In the book, they were like rich, poor, like social leader, outcasts, nothing, married, not, or like in love, not in love, grieving, like felt every emotion to the max.
Yeah.
And then they reached their form of enlightenment, which
Yeah.
that's something that I really like. And I'm really trying to hit all of those like kind of maxes in life. And this is like where I was very social in undergrad. I'm in a very antisocial kind of place, but not as much by choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So experiencing this, like looking back on this series and seeing like, well, what will it be? Like, I know what it is now.
Yeah.
There's still what will it be tomorrow, because you never know what tomorrow is.
Sure.
Yeah. So just experiencing these like what will it be moments and actually doing them, which
Yeah.
is something I need to hold myself accountable to more, actually doing these things.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like there's nothing else to say. Like you come out of those experiences like a whole new person while still being like, still have your center. So maybe the center is a little off somewhere, but you still have a center.
Yeah.
So I really like those. I really
Okay.
like those.
What's the author of that book that you said? The
Yeah.
Siddhartha?
So Siddhartha by
Uh-huh.
Hermann Hesse. So we got a little Zoom chat. I'll send it in.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that story of Siddhartha, I mean, it always amazes me when I hear it, when he goes out in the world for the first time and he sees an old person and a dying person and not knowing what the hell is going on, what is wrong with these people. It's like, yeah, it's like you said, you experience these new things, and that makes you kind of see the world a little bit differently. You know what I mean? It's not all, rainbows all the time, it's, there are people hurting out here, and yeah.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I'm a bit of a like religious history nerd, so that I that's, it's weird. Like some of the things I do in my free time, people think they think I'm making it up or I'm nuts. Like I like to study the history of religions, not, I mean, because I'm Catholic. I am, geez, what I say, what I believe, most Catholics would call me a heretic, for sure, right? Like there's a lot of it that is absolute bullshit, and there are a lot of them that don't know the history of the church or the religion. You know what I mean? So if you don't, like, you cannot have a conversation with me, okay? Because if you don't know all the bad shit, all the books I removed, okay, yeah, I will go off on a tangent, but it's important to know these things. You know what I mean?
I want to hear
Especially
that
if it's
tangent
something
one day,
new.
though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I want to hear that one day.
Oh, we could go off on that. Oh yeah. Oh, the Catholics would cancel me, and go from my head. But no, I still consider myself, I still go to church and all that stuff, but it's, what you take from it. It's, are you one of these nut jobs that believes everything that you hear from a priest or everything that's in the Bible, or can you discern for yourself or take things out of it that makes sense for you? You know what I mean? But I am the latter. I'm not, one of these crazy Bible people, but
it is what it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. All right. So if you could go anywhere to create art, anywhere in the world, where would you go?
It's so, I
a
don't
broad
know,
question, I know.
actually. Yeah, like ideally, honestly, near like some friends. I think at the end of the day, if I had that would be great. Or a beach house, actually. Yeah. My like life goal is to buy a beach house, just because I love the beach. I love water. I love the sand. I love the warmth. I love the cold. I don't know if you've ever been to a beach when it's raining, but that's a beautiful feeling.
Oh yeah.
I think that's something that is an end goal of mine. If I could be at a beach near some friends, that would ideally be the best. It's like much more simple than I thought.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. Yeah. No, it's funny. I was just in Hawaii a few weeks ago. on a much needed vacation. And the last day I was there, it rained, but it rained and it was like 80 degrees outside. So, we went to the beach. It was beautiful. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite, not moments, but like my favorite times to be at the beach. Like here in California, it's raining, it's cold as shit at the beach. You don't want to go, you know what I mean? But in Hawaii, it was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, that nice little rain, warm weather, water is warm. Awesome. So I get that you want to go live on a beach, be in a beach house somewhere. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah. Do you ever experience art block? I'd imagine most artists do. And when you do get in, that situation, what do you like to do to get out of it?
Yeah. So not, I feel like a dick when I say this, but no, I don't.
Right.
Just because, yeah, like just because I'm always like this, I mentioned this before, like you never lose your center. I try and stick to my center, and my center is like me as like a spiritual, mental, and physical form, like, and my message that I talked about of just kind of slowing down consumption, reflecting on like how our present is to our past. Like those little core tenets of mine, which I'm very comfortable changing if all needs to be, are really what give me that like drive. I'm always going on like, I also think routine is great for people when it comes to art blocks. Having these little constraints in your day puts on enough pressure where you have to like if you're not feeling anything, you're not going to make a piece that people are going to feel.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So if I just feel like that tiny bit of constraint and just like think about what was happening, what is happening, what I'm feeling, and I'm able to like put something out there, create a piece about it or from it. I also have a sketchbook. Every artist should have a sketchbook. Fill it with random stuff. Don't expect to do any of the things from that sketchbook. Like there's so many artists who say they forgot an idea. And I'm like, that's all on you.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm sorry. Like that it's like it's 2022. You have, if you need Procreate on your phone, you can download that. I prefer a sketchbook. I have my sketchbook on me most of the time. So I'm just like, if I ever do run out of ideas, which pray will never happen, then I will have my sketchbook. I mentioned this before, but all of my stuff is just like up here, so I keep referencing it.
I'm imagining it right.
Yeah. So, and then just but yeah, like for artists who are experiencing art block, like don't be afraid, because another thing is, because like I've basically made, like I have my own medium, I'm not worried about putting out a bad piece, because you're really just comparing my work to myself, right? Like if someone has like a painting which they believe is bad, they're comparing it to other paintings. Are you comparing it to your own paintings, or like everyone's paintings? Like comparison does kill creativity. Inspiration does not. Like comparison, that kills. So stop comparing your work, just put something out. Like someone said it, little shout out to Father Bronx in the Mystery School. He has like an online class and a podcast on Spotify, which I'll send. Which is just talking about how to be an artist, which is, I think, is a great mindset tool, which I like go by, not religiously anymore, but when I was like in my pure zone, I was listening to that a lot. But it just teaches you like how art block is like, it's an issue that you make. You just need to put something out there. If you're worried about showing people your art, like stop. At the end of the day, I don't know what else to say. Just like, just do it. Like you're only adding to the conversation of what art can be. So that's all I got. Like art block.
That's great. No,
I really hope
that's
I
great.
answered that. I feel like I
No, that's great. No, that's great.
scattershot.
No, this is great. This interview has gone great because you talk. I like that. No, that's awesome. And I do like, oh, well, I'm not an artist, but I do like that you said have a sketchbook. Well, I got this idea from a friend of mine. Shout out Danny B. I carry a little notebook with me and a pen, just in case I have any idea. It doesn't even have to be for the show, just any idea at all. I write it down and I keep it in my pocket all the time, just in case I think of something brilliant. So far, nothing, but I'll have a brilliant idea one day.
Yeah, you like this is the sketchbook's the first step. The second step comes later. This all that matters.
Yeah. No, awesome. Oh, that's great. Oh, well, you've been a joy to interview, Roz. This has been
a great interview. I had my when the year started, I had a little manifestation list. I wanted an interview so bad. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we could do this. This happened. This was great.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Oh man. It's every interview I do, it gets better and better. And this is, this has been a great one. A great one. All right. Well, is there a parting message that you would like to leave to the fans or any struggling artists out there that aren't sure if, they should keep going or give up?
Don't be your own obstacle. That's the one thing I got to say. Like a lot of artists, you're holding yourself back because of comparison, of saying that again. You compare yourself to yourself. That's all you have to do. Yeah. Even that might be too much. Like, just we want to see art. Scattershot. Show me everything. Show me what you're working on. Don't worry about trends. Find your center. Try and stick to it. You don't have to find it today or tomorrow. Find it eventually, though.
Yeah.
Like just guess and test. Figure out what you like. Yeah, do what you like. Yeah. What you actually like too.
Yes. That's a great message. Yes, the trending thing. That trends kill a lot of creativity, and in my opinion, because I'm a big music fan, right?
Yeah.
And I listen to lots of things. Like I play the bass. I used to play rock music for a while, but I'm a big hip hop fan. And I'd say now it's changing, but for a very long time, and a lot of young kids don't like when I say this, but a lot of the stuff sounded the same. And it sounded the same, not because, I'm just some old guy who's comparing everything to the 90s. No, it's not that. Is there would be a trend. And then everyone hops on the trend. And that's why it sounded the same, not because, these artists are writing exactly the same thing. It's do something different. Do something different.
Else. Do something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's all I ask.
All right. Well, where can the people find you?
Where can they find me? So I'm on Instagram at Roz Does Art. I'm on Twitter at Roz Does Art. If you want to come to Utah, Salt Lake City, you can also find me here. I guarantee nothing from that experience. But right now I'm on social media. My not so favorite form of media, but it's still one of the ones we go to. So you'll find me online, find me in Utah.
All right. I'll list all your socials down here too. All right. Well, thank you for the interview again. Anytime you want to do this again, you have something new coming out, or you want to just talk, we can do this anytime, man. Anytime.
If I go to LA, if I have a show, I will love to just talk, just hang out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll go to the Arts District. I'll show you what used to be good. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you some of the spots that the hipsters haven't taken over yet. So yeah, if you do come to LA, let me know. Absolutely.
I'll let you know. Awesome.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Philip.